Hi, my name's Emma, and I'm a senior campaigner at GetUp. You've probably received one or two emails from me over the last few weeks. This election, I'm organising GetUp's Election Day effort. So today, I'm going to take you through a very brief booth volunteer training. But before I start, of course, I want to say thank you. Thank you for signing up for such an important role and taking such huge ownership over this election day with us. Because of you, GetUp will have a presence at the most strategic and most marginal polling booths around the country. There's well over 100 area captains who are managing over 400 polling booths around the country this election. And there's over 2,000 GetUp members just like you who have put their hand up to be a booth volunteer and dedicate anywhere from 3 to 10 hours on election day. Some of you are volunteering at your local booth, while others of you are hopping over the border into your nearby marginal electorate, while some of you are even hopping on a GetUp bus for the first time to drive sometimes many hours away to a marginal electorate where you can have the most impact. Thank you. So just a reminder, if you haven't already, please read over the booth volunteer guide that's linked to in the email you received from me. Most of what I'll go over today is in that guide, so it's really essential reading before you hit the booth. Again, today's training will run for 20 to 30 minutes, but first let's go over the agenda. Today I'm going to run through just a quick update on materials, what you can expect from your area captain over the next few days, rostering on, what to bring on the day, tips for handing out, what the Australian Electoral Commission rules are at your booth, and how to vote FHQs. But if you're the morning captain, please listen on beyond that, and I'll just go in a little bit more about what your role is. If not, you can switch off. So first, a quick recap on materials. The materials for your booths have been boxed up over the weekend and sent to a GetUp member in your region who is called a materials manager. When the material manager receives their shipment, they'll then organise with your area captains to collect materials. If you're the morning captain who's responsible for setting up your booth at 7 a.m, you can then expect to receive a call from your area captain to organise pickup or drop off. So what materials will you have at your booth on election day? Unless you're the morning captain and you're the person setting up, when you arrive at your booth, you can expect to see a box containing 5 t-shirts in medium, large and extra large, 10 badges, which are awesome, beanies in Tassie and Victoria, and a few thousand how to vote cards, which should last you all through the day. There'll also be 5 call flutes or placards, each with a different design. Since it's winter, in most cases, t-shirts can simply be worn over the jumper. That makes it easier for when you have to take the t-shirt off to give to the next volunteer. If you're on the last shift, please feel free to take the t-shirt home. They do not have to be sent back to GetUp. As I said, at the colder booths, GetUp will provide 5 orange GetUp beanies too. And the badges are for you to take home as a memento. That's why there's 10 per booth, and they're like massive and oversized and great. So importantly, what can you expect from your area captain over the next week? This week will be really busy for area captains. Your area captain could have anywhere from 2 or 3 to over 50 booth volunteers to manage, which means hours and hours of work and support to make sure it works. Apart from calling new volunteers as they sign up and rostering them onto a shift like you have been, your area captain will be working hard to really finalise those booth rosters, and it's a really tough job. This means you may receive a call from your area captain over the next few days asking you, can you take on an extra shift? Can you swap your shift for one at a booth that really needs volunteers? Or can you step up to be the morning captain if you're already on that morning shift? Of course, if you're not able to take one of these things on, that's totally fine. But if you can be flexible, it'd be a massive help on this, what can be quite a hectic last week for area captains. But with that in mind, if you need to change your shift, please do your area captain a favour and let them know as soon as possible. It'll make their job far easier. And likewise, if you've not received a call from your area captain to roster you on, please let GetUp know immediately and we'll definitely sort it out for you. So that email address, is always, with any of your questions, is takeaction, all one word, at getup.org.au. On the day, your area captain will be driving around to each booth. They'll be there to lend you support, to answer your questions, to confirm with you, what you're supposed to be doing if you're unsure, and making sure any issues are resolved. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So another important thing that you need is the full roster for your booth on election day. Why is this? Because having it with you on the day is really useful, because it tells you who is rostered onto which shifts at your booth, but it also has your area captain and fellow volunteers' contact details, like their mobile number. That means if you're finishing up a shift and the next volunteer hasn't turned up, you can find their contact details on the roster and give them a call. You might find out that they're running late, or and maybe you come to the agreement that you'll stay on an extra 10 minutes so that the booth is never left unattended. Similarly, if you can see there's no one rostered on to the next shift, or they don't end up turning up at all, you'll need to leave GetUp's materials with someone you trust at the booth, or give your area captain a call. If this happens, give the next volunteer rostered on a call also to let them know where to find the materials, if it's with someone at the booth, or if they should get the materials off your area captain at the start of their shift. You can find your booth roster by visiting the link www.getup.org.au/booth roster. But that, again, is in the email, so I'm not expecting you to remember that. When you arrive at this page, you'll be asked to sign in with your email address. You'll then see the booth rosters of any booths that you're signed on to. For most people, this will just be one booth roster, but there are some people out there that are volunteering at more than one booth. This is also a printer-friendly page, so if you'd like to, feel free to print it out. Keep in mind that your area captain will likely be making changes quite late in the week, so you're best to print it out on Friday when the booth roster is least likely to change. And in terms of support on election day, you'll have two numbers to call for any problems. The first number, as we've talked about, is your area captain. You should call your area captain for issues like if you've turned up to your booth and you can't see any volunteers or materials. This is probably not going to happen to anyone. Or if the next volunteer doesn't turn up to their shift and they should have. If you run out of how to vote cards. Or for any sort of volunteer issue at your booth. But you also have another number to call, and that's the GetUp support line, and that will take you straight through to one of us in the office who is here just to help you resolve these issues. And these kind of issues are if you're having an unresolvable issue with an Australian electoral official, if you have someone that is being aggressive, if someone is telling you you can't hand out GetUp's how to vote cards, I assure you you can, and we will resolve that. Any issue relating to the law, and of course if you can't get through to your area captain and need the issue resolved as soon as possible. Again, it will be in the email, but the GetUp support line for you on election day depends on what area in the country you are. So in Queensland, South Australia and WA, you'd be ringing Renair. If you're anywhere in New South Wales, you will be calling me. And in Victoria and Tasmania, you'll be calling Aileen directly. And we'll be manning the phones all day from about 6:30 in the morning. So of course, we have to start thinking about election day, and I'm sure everyone started already to think about what the weather's going to look like. When it comes to the weather, please prepare for the unexpected. No matter what the forecast, please bring the following things. Hat and sunscreen if you're sun sensitive. A GetUp t-shirt or orange t-shirt if you have one. That means that if there's more than 5 people rostered onto a shift at your booth, you'll be able to help by having a t-shirt already on. An umbrella. An umbrella is better than a raincoat because, of course, while a raincoat keeps you dry, it doesn't keep the how to vote cards dry. Jumper, again, if you have anything orange, please wear it. Comfortable shoes, of course. A bottle of water and snacks to last you through your whole shift. If you have any masking tape lying around the house, that's always useful, and of course plastic bags. The other thing that we've mentioned is a copy of your full booth roster, which has your fellow volunteers and area captains' contact details on it. So when you arrive at your booth, you'll do so at the main entrance. The main entrance is the one listed on the booth sign-up page, and they're the ones that you have the contact details for. When you arrive, simply look for the GetUp orange, unless you're the morning captain and are setting up. You'll notice, well, you may have noticed that the shifts for volunteering overlap. This is deliberate. This means that even if there's, that means that the booth will never be unattended, and there's 15 minutes where either the new round of volunteers will turn up, or maybe you've arrived, and there might be times when you have the last shift hasn't taken off their t-shirt yet, and so, but don't let that stop you. If during that 15 minutes of overlap, pick up some how to vote, start handing them out. Don't wait for a GetUp t-shirt to do that. The changeover period is also an opportunity to meet more GetUp members who are doing what you do. So, take a moment to say hello, ask them if they have any tips for you, or you can share your tips with the new volunteers. And especially, it's a good chance to pass on any special instructions that have been given by the Australian Election Commission official. So I want to just briefly go into 2 issues that could pop up in a little bit more detail on what to do with them. I think a question that some of us will face when we're at the booth is, what if the next volunteer doesn't show up? What should we do? If the next volunteer rostered on does not turn up, again, you can find their number on the booth roster you'll have with you. You can give them a call and find out if they're just running late or if they're actually unable to make it at all. If they can no longer attend, give your area captain a call and inform them of the situation. Your area captain may ask if you can stay on a bit longer, or they may tell you that they'll come to fill in the shift themselves. Or alternatively, your area captain might give you instructions of where to leave the materials in a safe place for the next volunteer. So what do you do if you need to leave the booth unattended and there are no other volunteers rostered on? It's really important not to leave the election materials unattended, no matter what. If you find yourself in the position where you must leave the booth and there's no other volunteers there, first give your area captain a call and see if they're close by. They might be able to mine the election materials until the next person turns up, or just keep them safe in their car. Or alternatively, you might ask someone friendly at your booth if they can mine the materials until the next person comes. In my experience, people volunteering at booths are incredibly friendly, and no matter what, side of politics you come from, everyone's, down for a laugh, and they're got really good spirits, and, it's a really friendly and warm atmosphere. So I'm sure there's someone at the booth that can fill this role for you if you need them to. You can then let your area captain know who you've left the materials with, and also give the next volunteer a call or text and let them know who to go up to at the booth to get their materials. So, tips for handing out how to vote cards. This is in your guide, but I think it's important to go over. First is to embrace your independence as a GetUp member. Unlike political party volunteers, you are not telling parties to choose one party over another. Instead, you're giving them independent information about how to vote to put a really important local issue first. This really does make you every voter's best friend. And of course, when voters are, entering the gates, coming up to you, it's really important to use a snappy opening line. It's not enough just to hand out a how to vote. Having an opening line will make all the difference between someone taking your card or not. So in the guide, there are a few lines that you could use. But we actually have volunteers doing pre-poll this week, and they've been able to give us this enormously useful intel on what opening lines have worked best for them. And overwhelmingly, the most successful line is, I'm not from a political party, here's how to vote to save, and then the issue on your how to vote card. Volunteers have found that people are more likely to take their cards from them if they use this line. And it really seems to cut through the noise that other political party volunteers are saying, who are apparently extremely loud this year. So you'll need a loud voice too. Next up is talking about GetUp. A lot of voters won't have heard of GetUp and may ask you what it is. An easy way I always find to explain this is GetUp is an independent organisation. We don't support any political party. Today we're handing out independent how to vote cards that compare the parties on issues that matter. Would you like to have a read? Next up, be proactive. Approach as many people as possible because you really don't know who's going to take one. People are more likely to take a how to vote card from someone who's friendly and warm, so don't forget to smile while you do it. And of course, maintain presence. No matter what time of day you arrive at your shift, have a look around. Are the placards still in place or have they fallen down? Do new volunteers have a t-shirt on? Are you still standing in a really strategic place? It's important to keep energy up and high, but also have fun. And what do you do if a voter disagrees? Don't be disheartened, first of all. There's lots of people that won't take your how to vote card, and you might find that one is even a bit unpleasant. The best thing to do is to move on to the next voter and keep your cool. And of course, never engage in an argument. This one's really important. And another thing on being independent, that means we have to remain independent. While you're handing out for GetUp and representing the GetUp community, you cannot advocate for any other political parties or wear political party material. As a GetUp booth volunteer, you must remain independent. And of course, we'll never stop saying this, take some photos and please share them with GetUp. Photos really help GetUp show Australia the breadth and depth of our movement, and we need photographic evidence of that. And of course, taking a bit of time and care to take a good photo can make all the difference. It's better to have one good photo than 20 okay ones. So what makes a great photo? Definitely maximum GetUp orange in the shot. Of course, smiling faces. Placards in the background are always great, and our how to vote cards. But as much as possible, please avoid getting other political placards in the shot because it's much harder to use them. In the guide, there's a few examples of photos that were taken. They were professional ones, but they're just to give you an idea of what works really well. In the guide, you'll find this information written down, but just to outloud it, you can email your photos throughout the day to takeaction@getup.org.au or tweet us at GetUp. Please don't forget to include your name, your polling booth name, and your electorate in the shot, so we know, so we can share that with everyone else. So what if you're working on the last shift at the booth? It's good to know that your area captain will come round towards the end of the day to pick up any truly excess materials for recycling. But of course, you'll find yourself at the end of the day with the placards to take down and a few materials. You can recycle both the how to votes and the placards in a normal old yellow lidded recycling bin for paper and plastic. The GetUp t-shirts are yours to take home. So So let's very quickly run through the Australian Electoral Commission rules. They're of course in your guide. And it's so important that you follow these rules and comply with any instructions given to you by an AEC official on the day. First up, observe the 6 metre perimeter. This is the same at every single booth around the country. You're handing out, you must by law remain 6 metres from the polling booth entrance at all times. It is an offence to be any closer. But there are some polling booths where this 6 metre perimeter is definitely unclear. So that's why it's so important to talk to an AC official before you start handing anything out. That's their job, so please do so. Of course, as a GetUp volunteer, you must only hand out the GetUp How to Vote card provided. There are really strict legal requirements about the authorisation of how to vote materials, and if they're not adhered to, you could be prosecuted. So you can't, make materials at home to bring along because they're actually just not allowed. And what about GetUp How to Vote cards inside booths? So it's okay for a voter to take a GetUp How to Vote card into the booth themselves. It's just not okay for that person to leave it in the booth because this is seen as directing another person on how to vote. So encourage voters to hand back materials to you when they come out. Importantly, you cannot enter the polling booth to retrieve how to vote cards yourself or ask booth staff to retrieve them for you. So last up before the morning captain spiel is a bit on how to vote. A few frequently asked questions, the first of which is what's on your how to vote card. You can see what is on your how to vote card by heading to www.getup.org.au/vote, and it's got heaps of interesting information about how GetUp came up with the information on your how to vote card. So please head there if you've got any questions first. GetUp's electorate-specific how to vote cards this year are the result of tireless months of planning, polling, research and data analysis. The issue featured on your how to vote card reflects the priority identified by the GetUp movement, but also an issue really important to swing voters in your electorate. As I said, you can see more about this at www.getup.org.au/vote. So what exactly is a how to vote card? How to vote cards tell voters specifically how to cast their vote on a specific issue. For example, if swing voters in a particularly marginal seat or Senate rate are most concerned about hospital fundings, then GetUp's how to vote card will tell voters in that area how to cast their ballot to get the best outcome for hospitals funding. This ensures GetUp's how to vote cards will have maximum electoral impact. So how did GetUp pick the parties featured on your how to vote cards? GetUp's how to vote cards do not feature every political party, and nor do they give a comprehensive overview of the candidates' policies positions. Instead, GetUp prioritised the candidates with the best chance of winning, but who are also strong on the issues GetUp members care about. So, if you're not the morning captain, please feel free to turn off now. But of course, you might find that you're asked by your area captain if you're on the morning shift to step up. So if you think that's a possibility that you would be able to do, please listen on. To everyone else, thank you so much for having a listen and a watch. Please read the Booth Volunteer Guide and let us know if you have any questions at takeaction.org.au. Thank you very much. Okay, so morning captains, hello. If you've received a call from your area captain to confirm you're the morning captain, then that absolutely means this information is for you. So as you, I hope, know by now, being a morning captain means waking up a bit earlier than everyone else and being at your booth at 7 a.m. to set up. It also means that you have collected in some way the materials from your area captain before election day. This is really important. And so your area captain is due to give you a call in the next few days. If they haven't, please let us know at takeaction@getup.org.au, and we'll make sure we sort that out. It's really important that you've received a call, so you know what's going on, and you arrange pickup at a time that suits both you and the area captain. So once you do have the booth, feel free to open it and have a look around. Depending on if you have zip ties or masking tape in the box, please do make holes in the placards for the zip ties, and of course make sure you have heaps of masking tape. On the day when you turn up, you're going to be looking for fences, trees, poles to tie or tape those placards to. I had a really good question recently, which was, what's the best strategy for these 5 placards? Do you put them, in the same spot, or do you put them all over the place? And I thought this was interesting. I think it somewhat depends on your polling booth, but I think the majority of polling booths I've seen are schools and churches and big centres like that. And so it's really worth having a placard tied to a fence or pole on either side of the main entrance, at least. I've also seen GetUp members get super strategic where they've, gone, taken a placard, 5 or 6 meters down the road and just leaned it against a pole, where voters are definitely going to come past, and it's actually going to be the very first placard they see because there's zero competition out there. So I think don't feel that it's a problem to have, 1 or 2 placards, together, because that can be quite visually impactful. But also think outside the box. If you're walking up to the booth, where would you first see a placard, and where would it make the most impact? And of course, please take photos of this. When you arrive on election day, as I've said quite a few times, please go up to the Australian Electoral Commission official and introduce yourself, and just ask if they have any special instructions for you. They really appreciate this and make sure that you get off on the right foot. The closer you are to the polling booth, the better when you're setting up, your box of things and putting out your placards. But just remember, you do need to be 6 meters distance from the entrance. So at 7:45, the first morning shift volunteers will arrive. Make sure that you're wearing a GetUp t-shirt so they know who you are. Make sure to give them a warm hello, bring them up to speed about where you've set up materials and why. Give them a down low on where the 6 meter exclusion starts and ends, and any special instructions from the AEC official. Encourage everyone to introduce themselves too. It's really important to hand out how to vote at 7:45 to the early voters. At most booths, you'll find that there's actually a pretty steady line of voters waiting to get into the booth, and they start to congregate at around 7:45. So this is the perfect opportunity to hand voters who have nothing else to do GetUp how to vote card. That means they actually have time to read and digest the information and really engage. So when the 7:45 booth volunteers arrive, please remind them and, egg them on to go give a how to vote card to those early voters. So that's it. I hope that's covered most of your questions and provided a bit more detail to that information in the guide. Of course, please let me know if there are any questions via takeaction@getup.org.au. We will definitely get back to you. It's a really big priority making sure you feel supported, and we just so greatly appreciate you being at the booths and with us this election day. It's our most ambitious, strategic election day effort ever, and it's just so exciting. So only a few more sleeps to go. I really hope we all get the election outcome that we want and what all Australians deserve. So thank you very much, and see you at the booth soon.